It was sort of an uncharacteristically upbeat budget speech, full of jokes, full of jollity, but at the heart of it, of course, Chancellor, was the fact that growth has been absolutely slashed. That's dropped dramatically. We also heard as well that the deficit that we were promised was going to be cleared by 2015 is now still going to be around till 2025, 10 years after we were initially told the Tory government will be able to eradicate it. The question that Martin Lewis, our money-saving expert, has asked this morning, that we put to you, the question that the Shadow Chancellor has asked us to put to you is, what is the point of austerity if still by 2025 we're still going to be struggling? The squeezed middle are still being squeezed. Growth has clearly been slashed as well. We have this unknown quantity that is Brexit coming over the horizon. Why on earth are we still stuck with this, the issues of austerity? Clearly, it's not worked.
Well, the question here is one of balance as we go forward. Those who say just throw caution to the winds, borrow endless amounts of money and add to our debt, pass it on to the next generation, are wrong. But those who say we can't afford to do anything because we must use all our resources to pay down debt are wrong as well. We have to get the balance right. We've got to keep our debt under control, as anybody does who's got household debts. But at the same time, we've got to invest in the future.
Chancellor, how can you say that
we also found money. We also found money yesterday to help families and small businesses who are feeling pressed.
Apologies for trying to interrupt, but as you know, we don't have very much time and we want to try and get as much to you as possible. How can you say the balance is right when growth has been slashed dramatically and we've been told that the deficit that your party assured us would be gone by 2015 isn't going to be gone till 2025? Clearly, the balance isn't right.
So you opened this question by asking me to justify the fact that it would now take longer than my predecessor said to get the deficit down to zero. Of course, we could get the deficit down more quickly, but that would mean cutting public spending, it would mean squeezing the economy harder, it would mean putting up taxes. We've taken the judgment that it is better to take a little bit longer to get the deficit down and ease up on families a little bit, give families a tax break, put a little bit more money into the economy to keep it going through this period in order to generate the best outcome for Britain. That's a balanced approach, and I think that's the right approach.
You're setting aside more for Brexit, £3 billion. That's on top of what we might have to find for the divorce bill. Does that mean you've changed your mind about Brexit, or are you trying to keep those quiet that would like to have got rid of you because they don't think you're particularly for Brexit?
No, it means that we've always known that we would need to spend money preparing for the possible outcomes of our negotiations with the European Union. Things are going to change in the way we work together with our European neighbours, in the way we trade with them. And that means, for example, we will need to put in new facilities at our principal trade ports to handle the flow of goods. We'll need to put in new computer systems at the border to deal with migration flows. We'll need to hire and train new people to manage our border. All of these things have to be done in good time to prepare for our exit from the European Union. We always knew we would have to spend this money. What I've done in this budget is set it aside.
So do you think it can work now, then, with that amount of money? Because it's a lot more money than you've given to the NHS.
First of all, it's not a lot more money than I've given to the NHS. The total that we put into the NHS yesterday was £6.3 billion, and we've put aside £3 billion for the preparations for Brexit over the next 2 years. I think that's about the right amount of money, but I've said very clearly that if we need more money...
Well, it's £2.8 billion for the next 2 years for the NHS, with other amounts alongside, and the £3 billion is just a tiny amount that Brexit's actually going to cost, isn't it? So we can quibble with the bits and bobs, but as a stark, specific figure...
Plus £3.5 billion of extra capital for the NHS to invest in new equipment and new facilities that the NHS needs.
A lot less than Simon Stevens, the head of the NHS, wanted, though, isn't it? Still, a lot less than he said was actually needed in order for the NHS to work for all of us.
Well, Simon Stevens set out a 5-year plan for the NHS in 2014, which we funded in full. and that 5-year plan has not yet been delivered. The NHS have come back and said, look, demand has been higher than we expected. We need some more money, and we've put some more money in, and we will continue to work closely with the NHS management and the Department for Health to make sure that we cut out waste across the service, that we focus the money that is available on the front line, on delivering for patients, and that we get the outcomes that the NHS 5-year plan said it could deliver over that period of time. That's what patients want to see.
Yeah, the other thing that people will be keen to hear is how much you're going to pay nurses. We talked about this pay increase that was due for our nurses that you said they were going to be able to get. Can you put a figure on that for us, Chancellor?
No, there's a negotiation going on between the Health Secretary and the health service unions looking at changing the pay structure. It's not just about a pay increase, it's about restructuring the way the pay system works in the NHS, so we can recruit and retain the skilled people that we need. And what I said yesterday is that if those negotiations between the Health Secretary and the unions are successful, then we will provide extra money to pay for that settlement over and above the billions that I announced yesterday.
And why did you leave out social care and other elements like extra money for security? Because people would have been looking for more money for that.
Well, it's not usual at the budget to change the amount of money we're putting into different department spending. We exceptionally put money into the NHS yesterday. Back in the spring, I gave additional money to local authorities for social care, because we recognised that there was a pressure there, and the social care system and the NHS work very closely together, so money going into either system helps the other. But we're also looking more broadly across government at how to deliver social care sustainably in the future. We've got a long-term challenge because our population is getting older. More people will need social care, and that has to be paid for, and we have to work out as a nation how we're going to do that in a way that's sustainable and affordable and delivers the quality care people need.
OK, one last thing. The rabbit in the hat, as everyone was talking about, was scrapping stamp duty for properties up to £300,000, which is great news for first-time buyers as long as they qualify, of course, and they were all very pleased. I just wondered what your thoughts were to somebody who maybe completed on their first house last week, or more recently, suddenly finding out that had they waited, had they delayed just a week, just a few days, that they would have benefited from a huge sort of cut in their stamp duty.
Well, first of all, this measure is going to help about 1 million first-time buyers over the life of this Parliament.
But what about the people that haven't benefited, though,
just under £1,700 each? Well, whenever you introduce a change, I mean, clearly there will always be people who say, well, I wish that had happened earlier, or I wish I'd waited a bit longer. But I'm focused on trying to help the millions of young people who, frankly, have been feeling that their chances of getting on the housing ladder were very distant. And I hope we've brought that opportunity of getting on the housing ladder just that little bit nearer by the steps we took yesterday.